Yo, thank you guys again for listening to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. I'm your guy, Just. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, review, do all the good stuff that people always tell you to do. If you don't, I'm assuming that you don't pick up your poop of your dog when you walk on the street. On today's episode, we will be talking heavy basketball, but really only one team because two teams made a trade and one team might get a black man hang. But besides that, we will be speaking to one of a good friend, avid Lakers fan, big Yankees fan, not one of those people who I classify as being one of the worst sports fans of the Lakers, Yankees, Alabama football, North Carolina fan. Not that. Close enough. He likes two of those teams, and Duke. Yeah. Either way, one of the few black men I know who like Duke. Tobi is on this show. Thank you for coming in, man. How are you doing today?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me. I mean, ever since that trade went down, I mean, we'll get into it, but I mean, it's a glorious time to be a Lakers fan. We haven't been able to say this for a minute.
4 years, right?
We haven't. I mean, shoot, yeah, going back to the bubble. I mean, even then, people still try to take that away from us. So, but like right now, you really can't say nothing to us. So it's been a great couple days.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to talk to you about too was like I think. Before we get into Lakers talk, I think I had maybe an epiphany, and since you're in Colorado, you'd be a good person to ask about this. What is your relationship to snow? I'm just very curious. How do you feel about snow?
You know, it's actually crazy because like growing up in the city, like whenever we get snow and stuff like that, I mean, it was always like kind of miserable because it's like it'll snow like one day and then it's like on the ground for days, weeks, months, right? But the good thing about Colorado is like it'll snow, and since we got that higher elevation and we closer to the sun, it'll melt real fast. So I kind of have a different relationship with it now. So it's kind of like it snowed a couple days ago, sun is already out, and the streets is already dry. So I'm chilling, right? So it's like
Okay.
something that bothered me for a little bit, but living here, I know it's not going to be out there for a minute. So I'm chilling.
So I'm glad you said that because I think I've come to the realization that I think how you relate to snow determines how old you are. I don't actually believe age, like your actual number, determines how
Okay.
old you are. There are people I know who are my age who look like they 70 and they looking terrible.
Yeah.
But I came to this conclusion the other day because I was out and it snowed about 3 or 4 times in New York this year so far. And I was getting like really upset because I was like, man, I'm tired of moving the snow, like getting this off my car, yada, yada, yada. And I remember I was thinking to myself, like, yo, when was the last time I liked it when it snowed? Because you got to think back then, I don't know how your school was or how it was, but like for me, I remember I had to sit down and like watch like News One or whatever it was, just praying, hoping my stuff came across. Like I was looking like this was Sports Center highlights. I'm just waiting to see my school's name to come across and I'm out of school. And once you see that, it's lit, right? I might have to shovel, but that's not too bad. I got to play in the snow. You hang out with your friends. You out of school for maybe a day or two. Fire. Now, anytime I have snow, all I think about is me busting my ass walking, me having to clean up something, whether it's a car, a driveway, or whatnot. And I still got to go to work. So I really think my youth died the day it came, like it clicked in my brain that
Yeah.
my relationship to snow just changed.
I think you make a good point because it's not only just like stuff like snow, but it's kind of like every little thing for us is like an inconvenience. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? It's like, you know, you got your normal day to day, but then just add the extra element of it snowing, and you like, oh man, that's a whole nother thing I gotta deal with. Mind you, snow. It snows every year. It ain't new, it ain't different, but it's just the fact that something is being added to the element of your day to day. You like, man, I hate this. Why is it snowing right now? Why I gotta snow today? I gotta go to work. I gotta do this first. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta walk my dog. I gotta, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like the older you get, things that we've already been used to, they just get us even more tight. And it's like, yo, this ain't new. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So it's just like now that we older, we just grumpy and shit all the time.
That's a very astute point. But speaking of which, I had that moment of snow, and it just came to epiphany of like, this is that moment. But speaking of
Right.
which, like we were just saying, NBA season's full in effect. Football's over. Baseball hasn't really started as of yet. There's pitchers and catchers. But the trade that shook up the block happened. I assume you're watching Knicks Lakers when it happened. So, what was your first like moment? Like you thought it was probably fake, like the rest of us, right?
Yo, it's funny too that you say that because I remember I was at the bar after the Knicks Lakers game had ended, and it was like just wrapping up. And obviously, I'm in Colorado, so I'm 2 hours behind, like Eastern time zone or whatever. So the notification comes through my phone, and usually, whenever big sports stuff comes through, like as soon as the notifications come through, texts are coming through with it because like everybody's like hit on it. But it was a little bit later in the night, so I'm kind of like I get the notification, so I kind of pause for a little bit. I'm like, all right, like if this is real, somebody else is gonna text me first, or somebody's gonna text me immediately after. And I was kind of waiting, and I stood there and I looked up, and I'm trying to look around. I'm like, yo, there's nobody else reacting to this. I'm at a bar, there's sports on. No one else around me is reacting. So I'm like, ah, man, something's up. So I was like, you know what? Let me screenshot it, and I start sending it to people, and then people start responding. They're like, huh? What? Nah, that gotta be fake. I'm like, okay, so like, why is nobody else bringing this to my attention first? Like, there's no way I was the first one to see it. And then like, probably like a minute or two later, the floodgates opens. I'm getting calls, I'm getting FaceTimes, I'm getting texts. I'm like, my phone is vibrating. I can't even send one message without something else coming through. So I'm like, okay, boom. Then it starts popping up on all the TVs. Some dude walks behind me. He starts yelling at the top of his lungs. He gets on FaceTime. He's screaming. He's like, yo, they sent my boy AD to the Mavs, da da da. And then the dude on the phone was
Wait,
like,
he
send
sent
your
my boy.
boy.
That was his
Yeah,
first thought.
that's what the guy on the phone said. He said, "Your boy." He said, "You have Luka. What you mean, your boy?" And he was like, "Wait, hold on." And he paused and he looked and he was like, "Wait, we got Luka," and his tone changed. And I'm sitting there still in disbelief. I'm like, "Nah, this shit ain't real." Because like being a Lakers fan, people are just waiting for like our downfall or some type of news to like clown us. No matter who we sign, who we trade for, we always gonna be, ah man, the Lakers got fleeced, the Lakers got fleeced, the Lakers got fleeced. So then it's like you see Luka coming through at that point outside of LeBron, it don't matter who's going off the team. It's like we're getting Luka Doncic. It's like, yo, you could have traded
The
JJ
whole
Redick,
team.
you could have traded Jeannie Buss, you could have the whole everybody, and I we would have been fine. But it's like, did we actually come up on a trade? The Lakers, that was my first thought process. I was like, nah, there's no way that somebody actually wanted to do business with the Lakers. You feel me?
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, I think you probably sent it to our chat, and that's when
Oh
I
yeah,
saw it, and I was like, "This isn't real." And
yeah,
I remember I went online, I saw it, and I was like, "Damn," because Shams got it now, where he got it on every app. So it don't matter
right,
what social media app you got, Shams basically kind of mass spreads it.
yeah,
And I was like, "Oh, damn, they got it." It wasn't until I saw ESPN put it out where I was like, huh. I was like, man, it's gonna look real awkward when they gotta take all this down, right?
right,
Because I still didn't believe it. And then it wasn't until I don't remember who in our chat posted, but I think another person, I think it was Chris Haynes, said, "No, this is real."
yeah, yeah,
That's when
yeah,
I was like, "Oh shit, this is
yeah,
really happening
yeah.
right
Because
now."
everybody started quote retweeting Shams, and they were like, "Oh, he must have got hacked." So then that's when Haynes came in and was like, "No, this is real." And then Shams came in after the fact that he was like, "No, I did not get hacked," because that was we all thought the same thing. And then when other outlets started verifying it, that's when it really started to sink in, and people were like, "Yo, there's gotta be a deeper story." And even till this day, people are still like, "Yo, there's gotta be more to it."
Yeah, that's funny, and like maybe we will find out, quote unquote. But
Oh,
like my initial thought of the trade. and I still kind of hold this to it, is I think from the Maverick side, I think that they took their title window and essentially just hedged it and made it like 2 or 3, 4 years maybe. Because again, Anthony Davis might make first team All NBA this year. Now he probably won't because he's hurt now, but he was playing that well.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
like he's still a very good player. And like Kyrie's there, they still have good players on their team. I think they match up well with OKC if they're healthy. We'll see if that comes to fruition. They might not play them, right? Um, but I ultimately just looked at it as like I don't think Dallas is as bad as everyone's saying it is. However, this was a terrible trade. Like as much as I said that like out loud, I can be like, okay, like I don't think this is as like awful as it is in the short run, but they basically did the thing that I think no franchise outside of the Spurs were able really to do, and that's to extend a title window, right? Like you have your dude, and most times when you have your guy, when they get old, there's no pivot. You know, you kind of just sink. You try to maybe find another guy, you build up, and then either you draft that guy, you trade for the guy. But the dip always comes, right? Like
Sure.
again, Lakers, I think what they have like back to back to back number 2 overall picks,
Mhm.
like 3 straight years. And it's like that dip happened with Kobe.
Yeah.
And so you figured every team goes through that. You dip and then you try to like rebuild it back up. This is the first time ever where you had, and I would argue a title window. They did win a title not too long ago. That there will be no dip. They'll just now they just have their dude for the next 15 years, and it's just like again, I do not believe this whole like he's not built for this thing. Like this guy is not like James Harden, I think, where like you can see the like the foul grift in the moment would get too big for Harden, right? And yes, I think he's out of shape, and I think they don't talk about that enough because he's Slovenian, and you can take what Slovenia means. But I don't feel like they talk about his weight. Yet Zion gets his weight talked about all the time. I don't know why that happens, but like he is already showed to be a playoff killer. And at the end of the day, this 82 game stuff is all cool, but like you need that dude. And it's just for me, it's fascinating the fact that like in a way where now it's like the first time ever I can remember a team with LeBron James doesn't really give a fuck what LeBron James does on the team anymore.
That's actually a really good point because it's always kind of have has been like historically it's been like whatever team LeBron is on, it's like okay, how can those other guys complement him? But now we're in this different phase where it's kind of like, yeah, LeBron is LeBron, but we talking about Luka, right? And we talking about somebody that's what 15 years younger than LeBron, right? That's gonna be the next face of the franchise. Like, I don't think we've seen any type of pairing with LeBron that people have been like, oh man, yeah, like this is gonna be this guy's team after LeBron, right? Even when he was paired up with Kyrie, it was like Kyrie was technically kind of there first before LeBron came back, but it was never like, oh man, like yeah, this is gonna be Kyrie's team after. It's gonna be like, okay, now he has to move aside because LeBron is here now. So how can he complement him and kind of play along with that? But now you're kind of looking at this like, people have had the question how are Luca and LeBron gonna like fit together, play together, whatever. But it's kind of like, yo, have you seen what this dude is capable of doing since he's been like 17? He's been on like the world stage, not just the NBA. So people have already known the type of skill and the talent level he's possessed. And then he came to the NBA and it wasn't a fluke. He came in and he just started killing it right off rip. And to think again that they made the finals last year, like their squad wasn't really John Blaze like that. Like they weren't really like on paper, like, oh my God, like Dallas is coming to town. You got to be scared. But it was like when the lights were on, Luca was performing. And even his supporting cast, they were like, boom, all right, we're showing up. Obviously, they didn't do that against Boston, but every other playoff series, I mean, they made Minnesota look like they didn't even belong there. And
Crazy.
Minnesota wiped the floor with Denver. They wiped the floor with Denver, who won the chip the year before. And then Minnesota came in, kind of everybody's like, oh man, this Minnesota Dallas series is going to be tough. Dallas was not phased. Luka got them boys smooth out of
Yeah.
there. Easy.
I can still see him hitting Rudy Gobert and saying, "You can't fucking guard me."
Look,
God, that's so
cursed him
crazy.
out. Cursed him out. Like,
In
what?
his
I would have
gym,
retired.
and that's the thing that
Yeah.
people forget. Those first two games were in Minnesota.
Yeah. In their crib. He came into their crib, come to your trap, take over your trap. That's what Luka did. And that's crazy. And it's
That
like, for Dallas to be whatever inside scoop is going on back there, for them to be able to move on from that, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
I think ultimately, and I think like Nico's gonna get fired. Like
Oh
this is
yeah.
kind of just the writing's
Oh
on
yeah.
the wall. Even if, because I still believe this year will be tough because they have so many guys hurt that I don't think you're. I don't believe in you like just patchworking a team together and just winning a title. I think that's very. I think what Dallas did last year was very rare. Like they kind of made
Oh
those
yeah.
trades around this time, kind of caught fired, and then because they were kind of middle of the road until they made the
Mhm.
PJ and Gaffer trades, and then they kind of caught fired and made the finals. I think those things are a lot rarer than they are common. So I wouldn't
Mhm.
pick them, especially because like half the team's hurt. I wouldn't pick them to necessarily contend this year, but I do think that they are set up to contend in a year or two. The issue is that, like I said, instead of competing for at least 10, you're now competing. You're year to year, you
Yeah.
know. And again, you're believing in. And again, my opinion of the honorable Kyrie has shifted in years, but you're still relying on Kyrie, the honorable Irving, to lead you to where you need to go. Which that's almost day to day, like
I
with
mean,
him.
yeah. I mean, if you look at Kyrie and let's say like a Klay Thompson and an AD, if you had those guys like in their prime, you're like, yo, what? Those three guys, you're like, okay, finals automatically. But these guys are in their 30s now, right? Like, yeah, they can play, they can still hoop, but it's like, again, you got injuries, you got to think about consistency, and you just got to think about the young and hungry guys that are taking over the league nowadays. Like, we are in an era right now in the NBA where you don't have like a specific team or a certain player that's dominating over like 4 or 5 years anymore. There's like a very short list. Like the top 10 players in the league is changing pretty much like every one to
Every
two
year.
years at this point now. You know what I'm saying? So like, you look at guys like again, like Kyrie, he's your point guard now. You just trade for AD again. He's having a great season. And he's had great seasons in the last couple of years, but again, it's consistency and staying healthy, right? So that makes a big difference. It's like even if you're kind of like middle of the pack right now, you get healthy for the playoffs, it's kind of like, okay, but then you got to think about seeding. You got to think about the play-in now. If you're in the play-in, you're playing more games than those other teams. If you get a bad matchup, then it's kind of like, all right, well, now you got to fight for your life to try to make it to June. So all those little things come into effect. And guys in their 30s, man, look at OKC, man. All those dudes, it's 20 something years old. They running up and down the gym. Like,
They run
they
into the
best.
fact that they just played the Heat. The fact that
Oh, yeah.
do you see that they held the Heat to 8 points in the fourth quarter?
Mm-hmm.
8.
What was the run? 20, was it
It
24
was
0?
24-0.
24 0 in 6 minutes in an NBA game, in a professional basketball game. They were down. They went on a 24-0 run. And then again, yeah, holding Miami to what? 8 points in the
Eight
fourth?
points
That's just
with an
kind of like,
all-star on the team.
yeah, and I think we've gotten to the point where, like, with a lot of these young guys, man, you can't coach effort.
Nah.
They put it in guys that some people probably never heard of before. He'll play 10, 14 minutes, but he's getting you 4 rebounds, 12 points, 2, 3 assists, couple deflections. Probably not some sexy stats that are gonna make the box score, but those dudes, they're coming in there, they're playing a couple minutes, they're doing what they got to do, and then they coming up. I mean, Chet just came back. They still the best team in the league. Chet just came back.
And they're about to have a top 5 pick in this draft. It's insane. Shout
Like
out to the
it's great.
Sixers.
Like I mean, yeah, man, man,
They're looking rough.
it's 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 always a good day when a Philly team isn't doing well, and we
Oh,
got some
listen.
homies. I know that's your bag.
I'm listen, man. I was the fact the Eagles. I had to again. I had to. I'm not gonna ever say I rooted for the Eagles, but you know how
Yeah,
much it takes for me to not be upset that the Eagles won. I was like, this is fine. And the funny
no,
thing
I'm
is,
just right
like,
there with you.
I never hated the Sixers. I hate the Phillies. I hate the Eagles. But again, personal things. I saw Don McNabb go into MetLife and knock out the Giants that were 14-2. All right. I
Yeah,
saw the Phillies run the Mets down 2 times in
yeah,
my life. I'm like, the Phillies, I mean, the Sixers, this ain't nothing. They haven't played
right.
in the playoffs in 30 years. And man, when that turned so fast, I was like,
Yeah,
oh man, I am praying for these dudes to lose all the time. So
honestly, man, you
it's
got
great for
you.
me now. Like,
Yeah,
oh, it's up.
you gotta take a Philly tank when you can because I think just historically, like I don't think they have a lot of chips, but they've had some good teams over the years. So it's kind of like if the Sixers are gonna be doing bad right now, we just gonna have to take this. We have to celebrate this for a little bit because we don't know how long it's gonna last.
But bro, think about this. This all started with them tanking, and
Right.
now they have to tank again.
Again.
Again, it's a flat circle. You started tanking, and you're back tanking. You had the worst contract in the league, and now you got the worst contract in the league. It's insane. It's a
It's
circular process.
I mean, it's honestly crazy. I mean, it's funny that you use circular process because their whole thing was trust the process, right? So now they back in that. Now they
Back in it.
back in it. That's the irony of the whole thing, bro. Like, trust the process. They finally got there. They were hooping. They had Ben. They had Joel. They had a couple other glue guys, and then now it's like they back in the projects. It's
Back in
crazy.
the slums, bro. And yeah, it's just, I mean, shouts to them. But oh god, it's bad. But I actually want to talk about this year's team right here, right now, what you guys have, and just curious because I personally said, like I said before, like I actually liked the Mavericks this year more than I like the Lakers this year because y'all can't guard nobody. And look, from a guy who roots for a team that just gave up 148 points to the Hawks, I can tell you when you can't guard anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see, like, what exactly do you have for this year? Because again, like, this year to me it doesn't matter. Y'all won already. So like, what do you feel about this year's squad and like what are the expectations? I guess like now in a weird way.
I mean, I think this point in the time of the season is mad interesting because we were kind of like we were on a hot streak right before this trade. We worked our way up to I think we're fourth right now in the standing last time I checked. We're probably like 2 games behind Denver, I think. And then probably like 3 or 4 games behind Memphis. So we're kind of still like right there, right? And we just traded for Luka. Luka's just coming back from injury. He's still on a minutes restriction. We gave up our best defensive player, even though our defense wasn't that glamorous, anyways. But I still feel like there's still hope to make noise in the playoffs. At least I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Yo, we win it. Like, we go into the finals." If we do, I'll be shocked my damn self. But I will first of all want us to avoid playing. We're not a playing team at this point. We shouldn't be a playing team even before the Luka trade. But now it's kind of like the West is just mad interested now because you got like Memphis is in second. Denver's obviously always going to be like top 3, top 4. We're up there now. Houston is playing well too. So it's kind of like we've got some inexperienced teams right now that are kind of like in the fold in the playoff mix where I'm kind of like that's where that that vet presence is really going to matter, right? And we saw that with when OKC lost in the playoffs last year. They were still the best team in the West, but obviously those young guys, when push comes to shove, playoff basketball and playoff sports in general is just different, right? Like you need to know how to show up in those moments where you're down 10, 12 points. It could be the fourth quarter, but it's like keep your composure, chip away little by little, and we still gonna win this game, right? So I feel like as long as we can avoid the play-in and if we're able to maintain top four, we'll be straight. And now, again, obviously, injury is going to be key, but I feel like we picked up a couple defensive pieces, like obviously not Anthony Davis related, but we're just going to have to be able to guard the 2, 3 best players, and then everybody else is just going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, I think for me, the thing I've been most impressed with the Lakers, even this is prior to even the trade, was how good of a coach JJ was. And I think because I remember people were kind of clowning it, and I thought it was a bit ridiculous just because we have seen this before. We've seen guys who are like either broadcasters or GMs or just not guys who weren't like the assistant coach for a decade.
Right.
Come in and then get immediate success. Whether it was Steve Kerr, Ty Lue, Pat Riley, like
Right.
Joe Torre, who were crossing sports. Like I always feel, and this is the biggest thing I always say about coaching, at least 99.9% of the coaches in the NBA can tell you how to run a flare screen, can tell you how to do, like, that's not the intellect between the whoever you think the best coach is and whoever you think the worst coach is probably very minuscule, right?
Margin is small. Yeah.
Yeah, the margin is so small. The thing about it is you got to convince these guys to guard somebody. That's really it, and like your ability to have your team buy into whatever your scheme is, whatever it is, to me is half the battle. And I think the way that I saw how many guys went on JJ's podcast and like just seemed to like him as a person,
right.
To me, and also the fact that him and LeBron have a connection already showed me that, okay, LeBron's already bought in. So if LeBron's bought in, then, everyone else is going to have to buy in. And that was the biggest thing with me and like Darvin Ham. I was like, I don't think Darvin Ham's a bad coach, but like something happened in between the season last year that the players were like, I'm off this. And, we'll never know what that is per se, but that to me was half the battle. So I feel like JJ coming in and kind of like establishing like will be good so long as like have decent talent, I think was like the biggest domino to fall off on all of this.
And I mean, just to piggyback off that, like I said it earlier too, I'm kind of like any move the Lakers have made, like within the last couple of years, people always like laugh, right? JJ, we hired JJ. People like, oh man, like of course they're gonna hire JJ because he's friends with LeBron. He doesn't have any coaching history. No matter what the Lakers do, people are ready to laugh. Before they even know if it's a good or bad decision, it's automatically, oh, the Lakers did it. That's funny. We're gonna clown them. And it's kind of like, all right, they didn't start off the season too great. We had a couple bad losses in a row, but it's like, okay, now we're in the middle of his first season. All right, we're still in playoff contention, right? We just traded for Luka. So it's kind of like, now what's going to happen? All those jokes that people just want to make fun because it's the Lakers, but it's like, yo, JJ Redick had a podcast. He had a lot of good guests on there. A lot of people respect him in the industry. A lot of players, current, former, broadcaster. And if you listen to what he was saying on his podcast or even when he was broadcasting, he knows his stuff, right? Like you said, like he's knowledgeable. If you're able to coach basketball, like at any specific level, you have a degree of kind of like, okay, X's and O's, sure, fine, cool, whatever. But it's about getting guys to buy in. And JJ, his personality and just his longevity in the league, people respect him. So it's like, it wasn't a bad hire. People were just shocked, I guess, because it's like, again, he hasn't coached before. So it's like, oh, of course they're going to do that. Let's laugh at the Lakers. And it's like, all right, well, ain't much to laugh at right now. So
yeah, facts. I kind of want to shift it to, and this was kind of my most interesting question because I feel as if there's maybe not a fragmented set of Lakers fans because there's Lakers fans everywhere, but I'm very curious. I very much felt like the LeBron to the Lakers thing was always this like, all right, we'll do this, but
Yeah,
we ain't really about this life.
yeah,
And again, like, maybe it really just was the Kobe and LeBron dynamic. Granted, those two never played in the finals. Like this guy's the best, but Kobe's the best, and like the torch passing, yada yada yada. I'm curious from your perspective, like, because to me, the Lakers have had this era with LeBron has been one of the weirdest eras I've seen.
oh
It's
yeah.
win a championship, miss the playoffs multiple times, make the Western Conference Finals, then now have Luka. And so I'm curious, like, what has been the LeBron Laker experience, which is people I think are also forgetting. He's getting close to playing. I think if he plays next year, no, is it next year? No, he's gonna play more years with the Lakers than he did already with the Heat, but I don't think he'll
Mhm. Yeah.
approach because he played with the Cavs for 12. Wait, was it no? Yeah, it was no 11 because it was 4 and 7, so it's
Yep.
11, and I believe next year will be 8. So he's already almost played the same amount with the Lakers that he did with the Cavs, which is crazy to think about. But
Yeah.
yeah, like what's been the LeBron and LA experience really been like?
It's it's mad interesting though because it's kind of like when he first signed, any probably like real Lakers fan at that time knew that he wasn't coming on assuming that like, oh, we were gonna win a chip. It wasn't like one of those like, oh, this team is already built to win a championship. They just need him. We were far away from contending anything. So then I think at that point we started to be like, you know what, maybe it was like a business decision, or again, kind of like the post Kobe era, try to get the Lakers into like conversations and stuff like that. So it was kind of like anytime the Lakers could be relevant in sports or in basketball, you kind of have to take it, right? Like win or lose, it's like, yeah, we have LeBron James. Like hate him or love him, people are watching, people are talking about it, talking about us. It's kind of like you kind of have to have thick skin, especially being a Lakers fan. You got to take the bad with the good, right? Because we had a lot of highs and we had some lows, and it's like, yo, you're gonna have to take a couple punches. Like, oh man, y'all just got blown out by so and so, or y'all just got swept, or y'all just missed the playoffs. It's kind of like, all right, fine. But then it's kind of like once we're up and we start talking and we start acting crazy, don't be surprised because y'all were clowning us just 10 minutes ago about something else. But now that we up, we gonna find our 5 minutes to, you know what I mean, to be hyped because it's not gonna last long. So it's like a roller coaster of emotions. You just gotta go with the flow, honestly.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too because like I never hated. I was more agnostic, I guess, because when I was growing up, most of my friends were Lakers fans. I mean, because we grown up it was the Kobe Shaq time, right? And it wasn't like the home team was doing much outside the Nets, and I got it, but I also was just like, we ain't gonna see these like. To watch their games, you can only watch them on the East Coast because we were in bed by half the time they were playing,
Right.
unless it was the playoffs, and that's when you got to see them the most. But it's just they're just around all the time, and I
Yeah.
think for me, I think I understand why there's hatred of it because there's hatred of big market teams all the time.
Oh,
Um, but I have to credit them in an odd way because, well, one, you will never convince me stars will never go to the Lakers. Like I truly do not believe the
oh,
Lakers will go through that time when they prior to LeBron, the not really the post Kobe era. It's really the y'all got swept by Dallas when was that 11, right? Or was that 12? That was 11, right?
was it 11?
I think that was
Remember,
11 because that was the year I think
I
Dirk
thought,
had to beat OKC, the
yeah,
the
okay, because I
uh
was
big
confusing.
three, and then he had to beat Shaq and not Shaq. He had to beat Kobe and Powell.
Yeah, It was either 11 or 12. I think it might be
Yeah, but
2000.
the thing is, it was like I feel like there was just a decade of them just not being good. You know, like missing the playoffs, and like I said, we already talked about the multiple top 7 picks and everything like that. And I just feel like that era or that time frame is just so few and far between, right? Because now, again, now you kind of have the exit ramp out of this, and I feel like the Lakers having this kind of now international star is really the next step of the NBA. Because I just, with Wemby, and remember you kind of just said that, right? Like the top 10 list is always changing, right? We don't really have the guy at the top that's like sustained to be like the best, right? I think Jokic is the best right now, but like if SGA wins the championship this year, you can argue he's the best player in the NBA. I kind of look at this time as the time post Jordan, pre LeBron era, and this is the post LeBron, pre Wemby era, where there's gonna be a bunch of guys that are gonna kind of like fluctuate between maybe 3 and 10 all year, and then the top 3 spots will probably be more solid, but maybe like those 3 guys will kind of take turns. Like it was Giannis at one point, then now it's Jokic, right? Until Wemby's like, all right, this is I got this. Like this I run it now. And to me, this is like the most interesting time because I feel like this is the time where like the NBA feels so wide open. Because I understand that Boston has looked so dominant and people still have this respect for them, which they should. They won the championship. But like Denver last year, everyone was like, Denver's winning the title, Denver's winning the title, Denver's winning the title until they didn't. They lost the second round. Now, everyone I kind of feel like is like, Boston's winning the title, Boston's winning the title, Boston's winning the title. And we'll see. Like, I don't think there's any team right now that's as good as like that Warriors team from 17-18, right? That team was like OP. Even the LeBron team with him, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, right? I think the talent is just so spread out now that I could see it being OKC, Cleveland, Boston, Denver, Knicks, Lakers. Like I can legitimately see a few different combinations of teams getting to the finals this year.
Absolutely, and I think it's so wild that we say that too because it feels like again now there's more parity in the NBA than there has been in a long time. But it's still weird though because their ratings are down, right? And they're still trying to figure out what's wrong, what they could do different, yada yada yada. And it's like it's crazy because growing up, big NBA fans. I mean, we literally have a group chat based off of the NBA. Like our group chat started because of NBA. And it's just mad interesting that like just if like the NBA doesn't have like that flair that it used to, when this should be the most exciting time that again, like you said, like 5, 6 different teams go on the chip. But when you think
Facts.
about historically, like, there are teams that they were like three-peating. It was like the Lakers in the early 2000s. Then the Spurs had their run. And then LeBron and them came through. And then the Warriors came through. And it was like every, those years, like you knew at least one through three teams was going to win the chip. Like confidently, you could say that. Like right now, that conversation is not as, I mean, like people don't really have like again like that Warriors fear, like oh man, like these guys are coming to town, they're gonna blow our doors off. And even if they do, it's like we'll see them in the playoffs and we'll take care of it. That's what the T Wolves did to Denver. They're like, oh man, defending champs, we're gonna come to the crib. I went to game one against the T Wolves and came to the crib, dropped 43. He
Like
wasn't
that.
phased. He wasn't phased. He was like, yo, he was like, what, defending champs? He came to the crib, killed us. I was like, oh shoot. Like, yeah, you sitting in the crowd, people like, oh man, the T Wolves, Rudy Gobert, like we making jokes, you think it's funny, and then we standing there and they're just like, yeah, man, no team is like nobody was really like, oh man, the T Wolves are gonna eliminate Denver. Because again, everybody's like,
I
oh
didn't
yeah, they're
think
gonna
that.
go back to back. Nobody thought Nobody thought that. But again, nowadays in the NBA, people they're gonna walk in your crib, they're gonna do what they have to do, and that's gonna be that.
Yeah. That's the thing I love now. I love the fact that it's like, and that's the thing too. It's like, it's odd because I feel like people lie a lot I think people are like, we hate dynasties, yet when they see dynasties, the ratings are super high.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, we hate dynasties and they're super high.
People,
But then when it's like,
people hate watching it. That's what they do.
of course, yeah, that's the thing. Nestlin don't count hate views. It's all the
Right.
same. It's a flat rate, baby. Um, but yeah, like I feel I like your point is I think the ratings are down in twofold. One, I think the NBA is in a same space I think as baseball in the fact that one, there's more options. Two, people just don't value the regular season as much as like we do, right? Like I love watching regular season basketball. I'll watch any team, not any team. I watch most teams play if they have like good players on the team or it's a decent team. And I think the fact that now like we just kind of mentioned, like the regular season somewhat doesn't seem to matter in a lot of people's eyes, and people just care mostly about the postseason. It's an inventory thing where there's no urgency. But now we're getting closer to the time where it's like, all right, you got to kind of get settled in, right? That's the thing. Like we were just talking about the Sixers. The Sixers season was cooked 2 weeks ago. They just haven't realized it. You know, it's like you can't. You can't. Do people really believe that they're gonna like do what? Like I podcasted myself like a month ago. I looked at their whole January schedule. I was like, oh, this is done. They were like playing like it was like the Lakers, the Knicks. They played the Nuggets twice. They played Boston. I was like, y'all not winning these games. It's like at best y'all go 500, and at 500 y'all gonna be what 11 still. They just lost to the Nets.
What Paul George had? What
Two points?
7 shot attempts. No Joel.
I mean, no Joel's a regular thing. The guy's already talking about having knee surgery again.
I mean, honestly, I think it's tough though because like as talented and skilled as Joel is, his body is just going to be the reason why he continues to be in and out. Like that's just a big dude, and it's just like, and not just like height and weight wise, but if you watch the way he plays and the way he throws himself to the ground, it's like, yo, are you trying to injure yourself? Like you already know your injury history. Like, sure, he might get fouled. I mean, he flops a lot, but even if he does get fouled, he's going an extra mile to throw himself to sell the call. It's like, yo, bro, I know you want to sell the call, but you are about to take yourself out for 2 or 3 weeks minimum just to try to get 2 free throws.
Insane. And it's crazy you even mentioned that because I don't know if you saw, but like he kind of had that like turnover against the Raptors. Or like he kind of like had the three, went in, lost the ball. And someone was making the good point because they were like, because I was like, why didn't you just shoot the ball? Because like I don't know if you follow Kirk Goldsberry where he does those like zone spots. He's like the best shooter in the league at like the free throw line, like
Yes.
right there. So even if he doesn't shoot the three, he can just take a step and shoot it. The game's tied. And someone online was making a good point. It's like he thought he was trying to get fouled, and it was crazy because it maybe flashed back to the series against the Knicks. It was game 4. They were down, and I remember that like Joel just got the ball. He was like not right underneath the basket, but like a little bit extended out, wide open. Like he flashed really quick, wide open. And instead of shooting the ball, he like pump faked, brought it down, took a step in, and then the ball got stripped from him. And he flailed his arms up. And that was like, wait, dude, just shoot the ball. It's like, and it's like you said, right? I really think the Harden stuff got in his head. I think the foul bait is the same reason why the Clippers have a good season. Not trusting them still. Don't trust Harden. I'm off that narcotic. That's not happening. But I really think that foul bait's got in his head. It's like there's no reason why your numbers drop that much in the postseason. Like it's a difference.
I mean, it's crazy though because I feel like, hunting for fouls is something a lot of guys in the league do, and to an extent, it's kind of like a skill. You kind of have to know how to do it to get those calls, right? But I think the difference with him is like he's gonna put his body on the line to get that foul call, which is kind of like, again, brother, you are too big for that. Like, last thing I want to see is Joel hitting the deck for anything if I'm a Sixers fan, and it's like he's hitting the ground on a layup, on a dunk, on a jump shot. It's like, bro, your biggest player should not be on the ground
that
that
much.
much. You know what I'm saying? Like, flail your arms all you want. Whatever. If you get the call, cool, great. But if you're dropping down to the ground and you're that big, why? No one is hitting you
Unnecessary.
that hard, bro.
Yeah, unnecessary work. Man, feels good. Feels good just to see the Sixers fail. Just feels good. But yeah, man, no, I really appreciate this. I really
Yep.
appreciate the Lakers talk. I'm fascinated. I'm very excited for the rest of the season. We're at All-Star break now, but obviously, like, I'm gonna see how well my team does. We'll see how this goes.
Y'all finally got Trey Young last night.
But
Y'all
so you know
finally
what's
got
funny
him.
about this? This is when I tell you this is literally something based off of hype. Like this thing is based off hype. He's won 7 games against the Knicks. He's
Right.
7-16.
He
But I
has he
get it.
doesn't
It's
have
it's
a
vibes. As
yeah,
we've just
no,
seen with
exactly.
elections, people just go off vibes. So like I get it. Like and I'll say this too to his credit. There isn't a player I think because like it was different. When LeBron was beating the Knicks' ass, the Knicks weren't good. So I was like, what are we doing? You just kick the shit out of a team that sucks. So I never got mad. The only time I got mad at LeBron was when they were doing the fucking water bottle shit. But I was
Yeah,
just that was at
nah,
Phil
that was
Jackson.
OD. That was crazy. That was
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
But I'll say this: that dude comes to play, and he's not afraid.
he
So
he plays that villain role against y'all so well, and it's like 9 times out of 10, again, you know Atlanta's probably gonna lose. They're not. I don't even know where their ranking is right now, but if they're coming to New York, he's up. Like he got an extra pep in his step. He got that game circled. No matter how bad their team is doing, he's coming and he's excited to play y'all every single time.
yeah, it's up like it's stuck, bro. Like
Yeah,
what did
facts.
Drake say again in Austin? Not Austin, Australia. Beef is I didn't die. Beef is live.
Yeah,
That's what it
facts.
is. Beef is live.
Facts.
But yeah, look, like I always say, Trey Young has 2 great moments every year. The time he comes to the Garden and the play-in tournament, sponsored by State Farm, because they're there every year.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a fact.
every year is a State Farm Atlanta Hawks Invitational, baby. Prove me wrong.
What if they just named it that for the players they use?
I'm not kidding you. It should be called the Atlanta Hawks Invitational, sponsored by State Farm. They're there every year. They've never, outside of the very first year of it, they've been in the play-in every year. It's fucking incredible.
It's
Like,
crazy.
it's just, I mean, hey, credit to them, you know. Like, and again, like I said, I sports hate Trey Young. I don't hate him as like a person,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like he genuinely makes me hate watching him play the Knicks. And look, every time and that's the thing, every game has gone the exact same. What like Knicks get off to a big lead, like oh they're gonna smoke them. You look at the clock. Why are we in overtime? I
Yeah,
don't know.
right. Bro, I was tripping off that. Like, I mean, y'all got the dub too. I mean, Cat looked great, Jalen looked great as always, but I'm like, why is it always Atlanta that y'all got this little back and forth with? It's like the little bug that you can't get off. You think you killed it, and then it just keeps coming back. I'm like, Atlanta should not be playing y'all that well. Ever.
It's just gnats, man. It's just gnats. It's like they're just around. It's like I can't explain it, you know, and I do think they have good players. I mean, they traded a lot of them away, but like another team that's kind of like I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do. Like they don't have the draft picks, but they can't really tank, so
Right.
they're kind of like
They're just like in this weird middle ground, and it's like,
yeah,
do y'all even know what y'all trying to accomplish right now?
yeah. So I like it. Obviously, they won. And look, like I'm always like this. If you win, you can say whatever you want. I never get mad at Trey for any of the trolling shit, right? Because I know if that was me, I'd be doing the same thing. So, like, as much as it burns my soul when I see this man win, I respect the game. The guy can play.
Yeah, if you get the dub, it's justified. So
exactly, this isn't like a guy who's talking all this crap. And he's 2 of 11. You know, the man comes in and he's out here hooping. But yeah, that's the littlest amount of praise I'm gonna give that dude.
But write this down.
Yes, write this down. You're not hearing this.
This is never gonna happen again.
Nah. But again, man, I really appreciate this. Yeah, thank you so much, man. And we'll see how this goes. You know, like you know, you already said you already said your Lakers expectations, and like I said, this somehow was able to give in the runway for this team for the next, I think, a minimum of 10 years, maybe more.
For sure.
But all right, brother. Yep. Thank you again for everyone listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Like I said, like, subscribe, review, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And I'll see you guys next week.
Appreciate you.